Happy New Year, it's Doug Isenberg. It's January 1st, 2023, and a little bit later this month I will have some complete data on the number of domain name disputes that we saw in 2022, but an early look at the data shows that it was yet another record year for domain name disputes. I'm talking about the data just from WIPO, from the World Intellectual Property Organization, which is just one of the UDRP service providers. But the early numbers from WIPO show that there were 5,736 domain name dispute cases at WIPO in 2022, and this was an increase of 11.85%. We've seen an increase in the number of domain name disputes at WIPO, by the way, every year for the past 9 years since 2013, and it's actually doubled since 2015. So it's important to remember that WIPO is just one of the UDRP service providers, but they're the largest provider, and their numbers are usually a barometer for what's happening at the other providers. And by the way, it's not just the total number of cases, the total number of domain name disputes that increased at WIPO, but also the total number of domain names in those cases that increased in 2022. The total number of disputed domain names was up over 9% last year. Ever since the UDRP went into effect, WIPO has now handled more than 61,000 domain name disputes, and it was just a couple of years ago, November of 2020, that WIPO issued a press release about its 50,000th domain name case. So you can see that the number of cases is actually increasing pretty significantly. So it's important to remember that the data from WIPO also includes cases that are not just under the UDRP, under the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy, because WIPO does handle domain name disputes for a number of country code or CCTLD specific policies that are not covered by the UDRP. It's also important to remember that WIPO does not handle cases under the URS, or the Uniform Rapid Suspension System, but I'll be taking a look at that data also in the next issue of GigaLaw's Domain Dispute Digest in later January. So what are the reasons for the increase in the number of domain name disputes last year? I think there are several, and these have been going on for a while. One is just a general increase in the number of domain name registrations in general. According to the VeriSign Domain Name Industry Brief, as of the end of the third quarter of last year, there were almost 350 million domain name registrations total, which was an increase of about 3.4% from the same quarter of the previous year. Also, I think the ongoing pandemic is a reason for some of the increase in cyber squatting, simply because cyber squatters are becoming a bit more clever as time goes on. Also, more people are continuing to work remotely and at home, so the total number of potential victims is higher perhaps than it has ever been. Another reason for the potential increase is a bit of a change in the type of activity that cyber squatters are engaging in. Personally, in my practice, I've seen a lot of clients experience what are called business email compromise scams, where cyber squatters are targeting somebody specifically at the company, perhaps to use a fake email address associated with a domain name to try to solicit payment for a fake invoice. Also, I've seen an increase with my clients in a number of what are called sort of tech support scams, where customers happen upon a website that makes it look as if their computer has been infected with a virus or some type of a malware, and it's not, and they're instructed to call a certain number, sometimes to provide a credit card or other financial information. Another reason for the increase in the number of domain name disputes last year is simply, and I've seen this again in my practice, there are a large number of what I call serial cyber squatters who have very large portfolios of domain names, and some of them have held on to these domain names for many years. I think trademark owners are also getting a bit more aggressive in filing domain name disputes. On the one hand, I have clients who are filing complaints much more quickly than they have in the past. So soon after seeing a domain name registered, they'll take action. On the other hand, I have clients as trademark owners who are actually discovering domain names that were registered long ago, maybe 20 years or more ago, and deciding now is a good time to file a UDRP complaint. .com, of course, remains the most popular GTLD in all domain name disputes at WIPO, accounting for about 78% of all domain name registrations and disputes in 2022. In the digest later this month, I'll have a more complete list about the most popular GTLDs. As for CCTLD disputes, .co, the country code top-level domain for the country of Colombia, remained the most popular in disputes at WIPO in 2022, accounting for almost 24% of all CCTLD disputes. So the only good news for trademark owners is, I suppose, that the UDRP and the domain name dispute policies are continuing to work very well for them. Trademark owners won more than 96% of cases at WIPO in 2022, and this is up. The all-time average is about 90% of decisions are in favor of trademark owners. I'm not sure exactly why trademark owners are winning more cases. It could be that trademark owners are simply being more selective about the types of complaints that they're filing, or perhaps trademark owners are becoming smarter and actually filing better complaints than in the past. So as I said at the beginning, I will have more data from the other UDRP service providers at the end of January in the next issue of GigaLaw's Domain Dispute Digest, so please be sure to check it out then.